Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Crypto Crow, and today we're going to be talking about Tron. Tron, decentralize the web. There's so much to be said about Tron, but I'm going to keep this video short. So obviously, not all the research possible is going to be presented in this video, but I've been reading a lot. And I've been keeping up with Tron on and off. Obviously, they're always in the media. There's always something going on with Tron. And, gosh, I don't even really know where to begin with this. To be quite frank with you, Tron is something that I invested in a while back. And like everything else, we've watched fall. Okay, we've watched it fall in value. We've watched it fall in transactions. We've watched it fall like everything else. A bear market is a bear market. But the question for me has been really about what projects throughout the bear market have continued really driving adoption, driving awareness, and building a solid use case. I will tell you this. Tron has a very significant use case. However, as of right now, in my opinion, it's not necessarily a use case that's going to carry it above and beyond its primary competitors in the current market. That's not to say that I don't think Tron will do well, but that is to say that I believe Tron right now, as it sits, has a bit of a ceiling. A glass ceiling, if you will. Now, I was reading through, let me go up here and we'll just look at a little bit of the stats. Right now, Tron's trading at 1 penny. 1 frickin' penny. And you'll also notice that it has well over 1 billion additional Tron tokens, TRX tokens, over what was available at its original all-time high. Its original all-time high was around here. This wasn't its original all-time high, but this is roughly how many tokens were available. About 65 billion tokens, 65.7, compared to now, we're looking at 66.6 billion. Okay, so many more tokens than were originally available at its original peak of 30 cents. Okay, and that was on January 5th of 2018. Now, Tron's general idea is to decentralize the web. It wanted to become and wants to become the decentralized internet. However, in talking to different developers, one of my developers as well, Tron is apparently really easy to develop on. It's easy to create wallets for. It's easy to work with. Okay. It has higher TPS, transactions per second, than Ethereum. It has a lot going for it. However, I believe that the way, and I'm big on marketing and mindset. And, Justin Sun and the Tron team, I feel as though a lot of their marketing is more to the youth. A lot of their marketing is more to, like you have some projects like Cardano, Ethereum, other projects, and they, like Ethereum doesn't really do any marketing. Cardano doesn't either, for that matter. But a lot of these other projects are targeting the major companies, right? They're targeting institutional investors. They're targeting, major use cases on a global level. Tron has managed to attract a lot of DApps, but these DApps are primarily in the vein of gambling. Okay? Now, while that is a very solid use case and one that can be very lucrative for Tron, I believe that their marketing and the way they present themselves and handle themselves to the general public is almost gimmicky to the point of, how do I say it? Like if you were to drive down the Vegas Strip and you see a lot of the big fluorescent animated lights, a lot of flash and trash, as I call it. To me, that is kind of what Tron does. They attract a lot of flash and trash with a lot of flash and trash. They don't. Yes, they bought BitTorrent. they bought Steam, and I think that Steam, that's actually a pretty big deal. And I think that's one good move in the right direction moving forward. But I think ultimately, if they really want to be competitive in this new bull market, as other projects are going to be climbing on their heels and trying to climb over their shoulders, get in front of them and mule kick them back, Cardano being one of them, they're going to need to come correct with a lot more than just some gambling dapps. And what's worse is the majority of these gambling dapps are falling. They're failing. The transactional volume it's just been crumbling. I'm going to go through and I'm going to read a little bit of this. This is actually DAppradar's 2019 industry review. Very, very informative. Thank you, DAppradar. Tron dapps and their users. Yet perhaps the biggest issue for the vision of Tron as a maturing DApp ecosystem has been its failure to expand outside of its key category of gambling and high-risk dapps. 90% of Tron audience interact with gambling dapps, 10% with exchanges, and 0.1% with games. This is demonstrated as, with the exception of the Tron Watch Market Exchange, the top 5 dapps by daily activity on Tron in 2019 are all in the gambling and high-risk category. Even in that context, Tron's most popular dapp, TronBet, which was relaunched as Wink in 2019, saw peak activity in late June of 4,000 daily active unique wallets, dropping to less than 2,000 by mid-December. Now, granted, this is also happening during a bear market. This is happening when, we didn't get any big turnaround. And I think December, they're talking December 2019. I'm pretty sure Bitcoin was around $3,100, $4,100 at the time. So, the fact that a lot of this usage dropped by this point, this was also a point where sentiment was at an all-time low as well. Google searches were flatlined. Everything was flatlined. A lot of us YouTubers were virtually flatlined. Many YouTubers capitulated and left the scene because there just weren't many eyes. They didn't feel that the work was worth it. They weren't making any money. Nobody was paying much attention. And some people just flat out decided to just cut their losses and leave and move on to other platforms. And I think overall, I don't necessarily think it's fair to judge Tron's DApp usage at this time or at that time in December, but facts are facts. If we're building an ecosystem where it's only acceptable and of interest to the public, while the market and the market sentiment overall is at a high or a peak, well, then we've got issues. And I don't think we'll ever truly reach mass adoption. We have to offer the public more than gambling dapps and games to be taken seriously. And because of that mentality, and because of that kind of marketing approach that attracts these kinds of dapps, or we'll call them dapplications, those are the types of projects you're going to attract, which are going to cause fair weather symptoms. And it's never really going to take Tron or the blockchain to a new level. That's just my opinion. Now, that's also, of course, not to say that these, and the thing of it is a lot of these gambling wallets and things of that nature, these gambling dapps and so forth, like the little exchanges, they need to be mass used in order for them to be effective. These gambling dapps are really just people trying to earn more Tron. And, typically these things they're fun. It's gambling. I remember when I very first got into crypto, I got really hooked on a game. It was like a dice game, a dice roll game. And you had to basically place a bet on whether you were going to roll above or under a particular number or whatever. And I kind of cracked that game. And what was funny is I remember I used SIA token. Because in order to do what I did and the way I set it up is I had to basically, I set it up to basically lose every time I rolled. But every time I re-rolled, I would double the previous bet. And when I won like an insane amount. And I let that rip one night while I was sleeping. And that thing was profitable when I woke up. I mean, like an insane amount. This thing had to have run for 8 solid hours. And then I remember, I think I got up, I went to the bathroom, I may have taken a shower, and came back to the computer. And in that time frame, after this thing had run all night long, red, like it basically wiped me out in a matter of, I don't know, 20 minutes. It probably didn't even take that long, but within that time frame, it wiped out everything I had earned through the night, which told me that they had fail safes to make sure that if you figured out a way to crack the system, that they would get it back, which basically told me that the whole thing was bogus. So I won't even say what site it was, but yeah, I mean overall, and the thing of it is when stuff like that happens, well, you lose trust, you lose a lot. And so if the majority of your blockchain and the majority of your technology is basically targeted and focused towards, gambling applications and things of that nature, I just don't see you growing that much. There needs to be some real use. Value is split. 90% gambling and high risk, 10% exchanges with games of rounding error. However, looking within categories, only one DApp is responsible for the majority of Tron's daily value. Wink accounts for about 72% of the year's total, and its predominance rises to 85% of the Tron dApps ecosystem's total value for the second half of 2019. That's just not going to carry you very far. That's just my personal opinion. Tron really needs to focus on things like Steam. If I were Tron, I would really make Steam a focal point. I would figure out new ways to grow that Steam ecosystem and really start figuring out how to get the general public to use it and put some marketing dollars behind marketing Steam. If they want to spend $4 or $5 million just to have lunch with Warren Buffett, why don't you spend that money on getting some true influencers on there, putting out some valuable content that's going to help the community overall? Why don't you? That's the kind of stuff that I think is going to be helpful. Get some big how-to influencers, people that make guides and tutorials and DIY or DIY. That I don't know. There are a lot of other ways I feel to build this blockchain than what they're currently doing, which is just, in my opinion, not very much. However, I think that the fact of the matter is these guys are very well funded. I don't see them going anywhere, and it is what it is. So basically, let me pull up my numbers here. All right. So we're looking at TRX, Tron. Current market cap is $1.1 billion and a total percent of 0.44%. So Tron makes up 0.44% of the total cryptocurrency market cap right now. Its all-time high market cap percentage was 1.02%. I propose that it may double. Because look, they do have Tron. They do have oh gosh, I almost called it BitConnect. Oh my gosh, the P2P platform. I can't even remember. There's so much this and BitTorrent. Excuse me. Obtaining BitTorrent, Steam. They're working on their general all-purpose use case, and that's great. And I think that they're marketing machines, so provided they really start drilling this into the public and improving its use case or their use cases to attract more people, it could be something that draws in a lot of new users as the cryptocurrency market sentiment continues to grow, eyeballs start looking back in our direction, and it could be a first adoption type blockchain for a lot of newcomers. So I could be being very, very conservative in this. But overall, at a $1 trillion market cap, as a first base metric, I give them 2%. As being able to acquire 2% of the market at that time. At that point in time, based off of the growing circulating supply, you're looking at 29 cents, which is ultimately a little less than their original all-time high. I mean, it sucks, but that's kind of what I'm seeing. At a $3 trillion market cap, maybe sometime in 2021, maybe we're looking at an 87-cent Tron, which is still outrageous considering it's 1 cent right now. Okay? So, you know, I think that there's a lot of opportunity, but I really think that I almost wish Tron had a US-based team that was funded that could really start, that could work out some more serious use cases for the blockchain. That's, I mean, and it's not to say that they're not capable, but I feel like with the direction they've gone thus far, you know, hey, Justin, you want somebody to head up something that'll build some real use case? Just let me know. I like Tron. I don't like Tron more than I like Cardano, but I like Tron as kind of, I guess the best way for me to explain how I feel about Tron is I have a nice SUV, right? And I believe that SUV it has a lot of utility. It has a lot of functionality. It looks nice. It runs great. It's pretty. I can fit my whole family in it. We can go on a trip. I'm proud of my SUV. But every once in a while, I might want to get into a really, really fast two-door that can go 0 to 60 in 3 seconds and just fly myself to the moon. It's only got one use. It's pretty, it's fast, can't seat many people, not a lot of utility, but it's got balls of steel and it'll take you where you want to go quickly. That to me could be Tron, in my opinion, at least right now. I would like to see Tron turn that little two-seater into a real flashy SUV. And that's just the way I see it. So, not much else to say about that. I mean, I hope people don't hate me but this is just the way I see it. And I've read so much other things. I've read so many other things. Tron is doing some good stuff, but I just feel like by the time this market really blows up, it just may be too late. And some of their marketing, doing announcements for future announcements to just keep themselves in front of people. Look, it's great, but if you don't really have something to say, people just start to lose interest overall. Once bit, twice shy, the boy who cried wolf, all that sort of thing. It's time for Tron to really come correct with some serious use cases for serious people, not just a bunch of dapps that, incite gambling, are high risk, and are ultimately developed because Tron is apparently, based off of some of the developers I spoke with, much easier to develop on than other blockchains. So that being said, hopefully I'm wrong to the extent that Tron goes up. Look, I'm a Tron holder. I hold a lot of Tron, and I expect to see it do well. But I don't want to get carried away with a price prediction until I've seen things that are really pushing me in the forehead, telling me that the sky is the absolute limit. And right now, I feel like the sky is too high with this glass ceiling hanging over its head. So until Justin Sun figures out a way to crack that glass with a mallet, I'm looking at 29 cents at a $1 trillion market cap. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not a licensed financial advisor. Don't go run out and trade based off of what I'm telling you here. Just use what I'm telling you to further your own research and dive a little bit deeper. If you want more clarification on anything I've said, you'll find it. On that note, crow your coins, guys, and I'll see you again soon.